"Old hag, get out of my life and stop embarrassing me." That was exactly what my son Jason shouted at me on his own front porch in front of the entire neighborhood. Mrs. Patterson stopped watering her petunias on the lawn next door. The delivery guy on the bike put his foot down on the pavement and just stood there, staring. The midday sun was beating down hard on the back of my neck, but what was really burning was the fire inside me. Tiffany, my daughter-in-law, was leaning against the doorframe, scrolling through her smartphone. She didn't even dignify me by looking up. She just gave that little smirk, the kind someone gives when they already know exactly how the show is going to end. I stood there, frozen like a statue, clutching my old notebook against my chest. I couldn't say a word. My body locked up, but I didn't cry. Not there. Not in front of them. You know that precise moment when you realize you've lost someone who, in reality, never truly saw you? It happened in that exact instant. It wasn't just rejection, it was erasure. I was being deleted. The down payment for that luxury house came out of my pocket. His college tuition, every single semester, I was the one who paid. 3 days later, when he opened the manila envelope I left on his doorstep, the color drained from his face. Because inside, there was something he never expected me to keep. But I had done something that changed the rules of the game forever. My name is Evelyn. I am 67 years old. I was married for 12 years to a good man, a hard worker, who died in a workplace accident when Jason was only 5. Back then, I had no idea how I was going to keep the roof over our heads all by myself. But I knew one thing for certain. My son was not going to grow up going without. I started sewing. I took jobs from everyone, turning down nothing. Hemming pants, fixing heavy curtains, prom dresses, school uniforms. I worked late into the night, under the dim light of a lamp, after Jason had gone to sleep. My hands developed calluses, my eyes burned with fatigue, but the money came in. He never knew what it was like to go to bed hungry. He never went to school without his supplies. He never slept without a warm quilt in the winter. The first big sacrifice came when he was 8. The school was organizing a class trip to Washington, D.C. He was dying to go, but money was tight. I canceled the eye treatment the doctor had ordered. I scraped together every coin and crumpled bill, and I paid for his trip. When he came back with that radiant smile, telling me about everything he had seen, it was worth every headache I suffered later for not getting my glasses. The second was in his teenage years. Jason wanted to get into a specialized technical program. It was his chance to have a better profession than mine, to be someone. I sold my newest sewing machine, the only professional one I had, and kept only the old one that jammed all the time. I paid the tuition, the materials, absolutely everything. He graduated. He got a job. He started to climb the ladder. The third sacrifice was the biggest of all. When Jason got accepted into business school, he needed a fortune for tuition, books, and commuting. I didn't have that kind of money. But my mother had left me an old cottage upstate when she passed. It was tiny, humble, but it was my only inheritance, my security. I sold it. Without a second thought, every cent from that sale went straight to Jason's college. 4 years. I covered everything. He graduated, got a good corporate job, started making good money. During all those years, we were close. He called every day. He came to visit on Sundays. He called me Mom with an affection that filled my heart. He promised that one day he would buy me a house, that I would stop working, that I deserved to rest like a queen. And I believed him. I believed him with all my heart. When he met Tiffany, I was genuinely happy. She was beautiful, always well-dressed, very polite when people were watching. Jason seemed head over heels in love. They dated for 2 years and got married. I helped with everything I could. I hand-embroidered the tablecloths, the linen napkins. I gave money for part of the reception. In the beginning, everything seemed normal, or so I wanted to believe. Tiffany greeted me, smiled, invited me for lunch at their place once in a while. But I felt a strange vibe, a side-eye when I talked too much, a certain sharpness in her voice when I asked about Jason. The first humiliation was subtle. It was a Sunday at their house. I brought a homemade apple pie I had baked late the night before. I placed it on the table, proud. Tiffany looked at it, forced a tight smile, and said, "Oh, Evelyn, what a shame. We already bought pastries from the bakery downtown. But thanks, okay? Leave it there. We'll see if anyone wants it later. The pie stayed in the fridge. A week later, when I went back, it was still there, untouched. Tiffany threw it in the trash right in front of me, saying it had gone moldy. Jason didn't say a word. He just looked away. I left with a knot in my stomach. It wasn't about the pie, it was about his silence. But I thought, it's a new marriage, they're adjusting. It will pass. It didn't pass. 6 months after the wedding, they bought a much bigger house. Jason called me, excited. He said it had 3 bedrooms, a backyard, a 2-car garage, and that one of the rooms was for me. Mom, come live with us. You don't need to be alone in that apartment anymore. I wept with joy. I packed my things, gave up the lease on my little place, and moved in. For the first month, I still held on to the hope that everything would work out. But Tiffany started creating rules. I couldn't use the living room after 8 p.m. because she watched her shows. I couldn't do laundry on weekends because the machine made noise. I couldn't cook without asking first because she planned the meals. My room was at the back of the house, small, with a tiny window and a smell of dampness that wouldn't go away. I accepted it. I thought, it's their house, I'm a guest. One day I came back from the grocery store and found my bedroom door wide open. My dresser was ransacked. Tiffany said she was looking for a bedsheet. I knew it was a lie. Nothing was missing, but my privacy had been invaded. When Jason got home from work, I mentioned it. He sighed, tired. Mom, don't exaggerate. Tiffany was just organizing. It was the first time he spoke to me with that tone. The second humiliation was worse. They threw a birthday party for Tiffany. I helped clean the whole house, prepared appetizers, set the table. I stood in the kitchen for hours. When the guests started arriving, luxury cars pulling into the driveway, Tiffany came up to me and whispered, Evelyn, I think it would be better if you stayed in your room. Important people are coming, and I don't want you to feel out of place. Out of place. Me. She removed me from the living room of my own help. I stayed locked in that room, listening to the laughter, the music, the clinking of glasses. No one knocked on my door. No one called me for cake. Jason walked past my door twice. He didn't come in. The next day, I found my sewing box in the trash. It was a wooden box my husband had made for me over 30 years ago. It had scratches, the paint was peeling, but it was mine. Tiffany said it was too old, that it clashed with the house decor. I took it out of the trash. I washed it, I hid it under the bed, and I started hiding other things too. Receipts, slips, old papers that proved everything I had done. The third humiliation involved my grandkids. Jason and Tiffany had 2 kids, Tyler, 7, and Emily, 4. I loved those children. When they were babies, I took care of them, changed diapers, rocked them at night while Tiffany slept. But as they grew, Tiffany started to build a wall between them and me. One day, Tyler ran to hug me. Tiffany pulled him by the arm and said, Honey, leave Grandma alone. She's tired. Don't bother her. He looked at me, confused. I smiled at him, but my chest ached. Then, it was worse. Emily called me to play dolls. I sat on the floor with her. Tiffany walked into the room and said, Emily, come here. Let's play in your room. The girl went. Tiffany locked the door. They stopped looking for me. When I entered the room, they left. When I offered a snack, they said they didn't want it. Tiffany had planted something in their heads. I saw it in their eyes. It wasn't natural rejection. It was taught. Jason saw it all and did nothing. One night, I tried to talk to him. Son, I feel like Tiffany doesn't want me here anymore. He huffed. Mom, you're exaggerating again. Tiffany takes care of you, gives you a home, food. Stop inventing things. Inventing. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the dark ceiling, feeling my chest tighten. It wasn't just distance. It was erasure. They were deleting me, turning me into a burden, an inconvenience. But I had started to protect myself. Every paper, every receipt, every transfer slip I still had, I put in an old folder. I hid it in the back of the closet. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet. But something inside me said, keep it. You will need it. It was a Tuesday when Jason called me to talk. He seemed nervous. Tiffany was next to him, with that serious face she made when she wanted to seem concerned. "Mom, we need your help." My heart sank. Help. After everything, they still wanted help. He explained. He said there was an investment opportunity. A friend of his was starting a company and needed a partner. It was a chance to multiply money, to secure the kids' future. But the bank hadn't approved the loan in time. "I need $50,000, Mom." $50,000. I didn't even have that much. I had a small reserve left from selling my mother's house, about $28,000 that I kept for an emergency. And I had money that a wealthy client owed me for a big sewing job, about $15,000 she was going to pay me in installments. "Mom, it's a loan. I'll pay you back in 6 months with interest. We can sign a contract, whatever you want." Tiffany added, "Evelyn, we never ask you for anything. You live here, you don't pay rent, you don't pay bills. It's a chance for us to grow. And you'll gain from this too." My whole body screamed, "No, mother's intuition. That feeling deep in your gut that says something is wrong. I felt it in my stomach, in my neck, in my chest. But Jason was my son. He looked at me with those eyes from when he was a child asking for something. And I always gave it. Always. I need to think." Tiffany crossed her arms. "Think? Evelyn? The opportunity is now. If you don't trust your own son—" Jason put his hand on my shoulder. "Mom, trust me. I've never let you down." Lie. He had let me down. But I didn't say anything. 3 days later, I signed the contract. But before I did, I made copies. 3 copies. I kept one with me, left one with Mrs. Patterson, my old neighbor, and hid the other inside the Bible on my nightstand. I transferred the $28,000 I had. And I gathered the other $22,000 by collecting what the client owed and taking out a small personal loan at the credit union in my name. Jason signed the receipt, promised 6 months, said he'd pay with 5% interest. I kept everything. The first 3 months, he didn't even touch the subject. When I asked, he said, "Relax, Mom. We're still within the time frame." Tiffany rolled her eyes. In the 4th month, they bought a car, brand new, silver, leather seats, sunroof. I saw it through the window when the car arrived. Tiffany got out, excited, taking pictures. Jason smiled. I waited for him to come in. I went to the living room. "Jason, where is the money you borrowed?" He stopped, looked at me with irritation. "What money?" "The $50,000. It's been 4 months. Tiffany jumped in. "Evelyn, the business is still yielding. We'll pay you. Relax." "I want to know when." Jason raised his voice. "Mom, I'll pay you when I can. You live here for free, you pay nothing, and you're harassing me?" My blood ran cold. "Jason, you signed a contract. 6 months. More than half the time has passed, and you bought a car." He laughed. A dry laugh, no humor. "I bought the car with my money, which I work every day to earn. You think I'm going to ride the bus my whole life to please you? I'm not asking to be pleased. I'm asking for what is mine." Tiffany stepped closer. "Evelyn, you're his mother. A mother helps her son without charging." My chest heaved. I looked at Jason. I looked for the boy I raised. I didn't find him. "You are going to pay me, Jason, because I have a contract, I have a receipt, and I have a witness." He stepped toward me. "Witness? You think anyone is going to believe you? You're an old seamstress living off her son's charity." Charity. That word echoed inside me. I left the room, went back to my bedroom. I sat on the bed and breathed deep. It wasn't just about the money. It was the contempt. It was the way he had looked at me, like I was nothing, like everything I had done wasn't worth a word of respect. The public blow would come later. But in that moment, I already knew. I wasn't a mother to him anymore. I was an inconvenience. 2 weeks later, the 6-month deadline expired. I woke up, took the contract, and went to their front door. I had gone out early. I knocked. Tiffany opened it, arms crossed. "What do you want, Evelyn?" "I want to speak to Jason." "He's busy. I'll wait." She huffed, left the door ajar, and went to get him. Jason appeared in shorts and a t-shirt, looking sleepy and irritated. "What is it, Mom?" I showed the contract. "Today is the deadline. 6 months, $50,000. He looked at the paper and laughed, a short, mocking laugh. "Mom, I don't have that money right now. But you had it for a car. The car is a necessity. I work far away. Jason, you signed. He took a step out, pushing me onto the sidewalk. His voice rose. I'll pay when I can. You don't boss me around. Mrs. Patterson was sweeping the sidewalk right next door. 2 neighbors were washing a car. The lady across the street was taking down laundry. Everyone stopped. Jason, I'm not bossing you around. I'm collecting what is mine. Tiffany appeared behind him with that smirk. She knew what was going to happen. Jason pointed his finger in my face. You know what you are, Mom? You're a nag, a boring old woman who doesn't have a life and clings to others. My whole body tensed up. He continued, louder, for everyone to hear. Old hag, get out of my life and stop embarrassing me. I gave you a house, food, a place to sleep, and you still come here charging me like I owe you something? You owe me. Everything I am today, I got on my own. The silence was brutal. Nobody moved. Mrs. Patterson dropped her broom. The delivery guy on the bike got off the curb and stood watching. The lady with the laundry stood paralyzed. Tiffany leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, not hiding her satisfaction. I clutched my old notebook against my chest. My notebook, where I had written every expense, every sacrifice, every promise he made. I couldn't speak. My throat closed up. My chest burned. I just looked at him, at my son, at the man I raised, and I recognized nothing. Jason went inside and slammed the door. I stood there, on the sidewalk, with everyone watching, with the sun burning my neck, with the noise of the street slowly coming back, with shame rising up my body. Mrs. Patterson approached. Evelyn. I raised my hand. I'm fine. I wasn't. I turned my back and walked away, walked to the corner, sat at the bus stop, and only there, when no one could see me, did the tears come. 2 nights I lay in the dark, without eating, without sleeping right, just replaying the scene in my head. His voice, Tiffany's laugh, the neighbor's silence. 2 days down. On the 3rd, I got up. The first day, I didn't get out of bed. I closed the bedroom door and lay on my side, staring at the wall. I didn't cry anymore. I just stayed there, empty, with the scene repeating in my head. The voice, the pointed finger, the word hag coming out of my son's mouth. Tiffany knocked on the door once. Evelyn, are you coming for lunch? I didn't answer. She went away. Tyler tried to enter, but I heard Tiffany pulling him. Leave, Grandma, she's in a bad mood. Bad mood. Like it was a tantrum, like it was nothing. On the 2nd day, I got up just to drink water, looked in the bathroom mirror. My face was swollen, eyes sunken. It looked like I had aged years in 2 days. I sat on the edge of the bed and took the notebook, opened it slowly. Inside was everything. Every single thing I did for Jason since he was born. Dates, amounts, decisions. March 15th, 1990. Paid for DC trip. Canceled my appointment. August 27th, 1998. Sold the good sewing machine. Paid for technical school. January 10th, 2005. Sold Mom's house. Everything for his college. Page after page. Proof of my entire life dedicated to him. And at the end, the last note. Loan, $50,000. Term, 6 months. Signed, April 14th. I closed the notebook. Breathed deep. Memories came. Jason small, crying because he fell off his bike, and me cleaning his knee. Jason, a teenager, hugging me when he got into college, saying, Mom, I did it because of you. Jason, an adult, at graduation, calling me to the stage, thanking me in front of everyone. Where did I lose him? I got up, went to the closet, opened the bottom drawer where I kept everything important, started pulling paper after paper, bank transfer receipts, everything I sent him over the years, tuition payment slips, deposit slips for the money I put in his account for his first apartment, the deed to my mother's house with the note on the back, full sale proceeds destined for Jason's education, old photos, Jason as a kid hugging me, Jason as a teen with the certificate in hand, me beside him, Jason as an adult at graduation, kissing my cheek. I took an old shoebox, started organizing, separated everything chronologically, oldest receipts at the bottom, newest on top. In the middle of the pile, I found something I had forgotten. A letter, handwritten by Jason when he was 18. He gave it to me on Mother's Day. I opened it carefully, his handwriting still a bit messy. Mom, I know you sacrificed everything for me. I will never forget. When I grow up, I will take care of you. You will never need anything. I promise. Broken promise. I put the letter in the box. Took the loan contract, 3 copies, transfer receipt, his signature, all dated. Grabbed an old calculator, sat on the bed, started adding up. College, 4 years, tuition, books, transport, total, $82,000. Down payment on the house he lived in before marrying, $30,000. I gave it. Furniture for the first apartment, $12,000. I bought it. Wedding, $20,000. I helped with half. Current loan, $50,000. Total, $194,000. Almost $200,000 that I invested in him, in his life, in his future. And he called me a hag, in front of everyone. Like I was worth nothing. It wasn't about the money. Never was. But the money proved one thing. I wasn't a burden. I was the foundation. And he had forgotten that. I closed the box, put everything inside, sealed it with tape, took a marker, wrote on the lid, evidence. Sat on the edge of the bed, holding the box in my lap. And for the first time in 2 days, I didn't feel empty. I felt anger. Clean anger. Just anger. Jason was going to pay me. Not because I needed it, but because I deserved it. I decided. No more begging. No more crying. No more accepting being treated like nothing. I was going to act. The next day, I had an ally. On Thursday morning, I took the evidence box and left the house without telling anyone. I went downtown to a street I had known since childhood. There was a small office there with a discreet plaque on the door. Attorney Robert Vance. Robert had been a schoolmate of my husband. When my husband died, he showed up at the funeral, hugged me, and said, "Evelyn, anything you need, come find me." I never needed anything. Until now. I pushed the door. A receptionist greeted me. "Good morning. Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's urgent." She hesitated. But in that moment, Robert walked out of a room. He had gray hair now, glasses, but the face was the same. He recognized me instantly. "Evelyn?" "Hi, Robert." He dismissed the receptionist with a wave and took me to his office. Closed the door. Pulled out a chair for me. "Sit." "What happened?" I put the box on the desk. Took a deep breath. "My son owes me $50,000, and he humiliated me in front of the whole street." Robert frowned. "Tell me everything." I told him. From the beginning. Since the widowhood, the sacrifices, college, the sale of my mother's house. I told him about Tiffany, the humiliations, the loan. And I told him about the scene on the sidewalk. Robert didn't interrupt, just listened with that serious face of someone processing every word. When I finished, he opened the box, took the contract, read it carefully, then took the receipts, the slips, the photos, Jason's old letter, spent almost half an hour in silence, organizing everything, making notes. Finally, he looked at me. "Evelyn, you have a solid case. Very solid." My chest lightened a little. "But it's not just about the loan, is it? You want justice." "I want respect." He nodded. "Then we go beyond the debt." Robert started separating the documents, spoke slowly, explaining everything. "This contract here is valid. It has signature, date, amount, term. Jason is in debt. I can file for collection today. And the other expenses? The things I paid before? That's more delicate. Legally, you can't retroactively charge for expenses that were gifts or help. But," he paused, thinking, "we can use this as character evidence to show who you are and who he has become." He noted a few more things, then stopped and looked at me. "Evelyn, I need to ask you something. Do you know if Jason has other debts, or if there's something wrong with his finances?" I thought. "I don't know. Why?" "Because a brand new luxury car isn't cheap. If he told you he doesn't have $50,000 to pay you, but bought a car that costs at least 80 or 90, something is wrong." He picked up the phone, called someone, spoke low, professional, hung up. "I have a contact who works in financial analysis. I'll ask him to take a discreet look." 2 hours later, the phone rang. Robert answered, listened, thanked them, hung up, looked at me with a heavy expression. "Evelyn, Jason's credit score is tanked. He has 3 maxed-out credit cards. Financed the car over 72 months, And he has a bounced check. My stomach turned. He's buried in debt. And Tiffany doesn't know. Or pretends she doesn't. So he deceived me. Completely. That investment story? A lie. He used your money to plug holes. I felt anger rising. It wasn't just disrespect. It was a scam, coldness, calculation. Robert continued. And there's more. Tiffany has an SUV in her name, too. Financed by her father. They live on appearances, Evelyn, and you became their bank. I breathed deep. What do we do? Robert gathered the papers, took a clean sheet, started drawing a plan. We act on 3 fronts: legal, social, and emotional. Explain. Legal front, I file a collection suit, demand the full amount with interest, place a lien on assets if necessary. This is fast, about 30 days. I noted mentally. Social front, we expose the truth, not scandalously, but cleanly. Witnesses who saw the public humiliation can depose in your favor. This demoralizes his argument that you are just a nagging mother. And the emotional? Robert looked at me firmly. You will confront him, personally, with the evidence on the table, in front of Tiffany, without yelling, without crying. Just show what he did, and say you won't take it anymore. I felt a chill down my spine, but it wasn't fear. It was determination. When? Next week. I'll go with you. We'll set it up in a neutral conference room. Tell him it's a settlement meeting. He'll think you're going to beg. But you'll arrive with the evidence, with me, and with a proposal. Either he pays or the law acts. I stayed silent, processing. Evelyn, are you ready for this? I looked at the evidence box, the photos, the receipts, Jason's old letter. I am. Robert smiled, a sad but respectful smile. Then let's begin. I left the office with the box under my arm and a paper in my hand. The date and time of the meeting. 7 days. The day arrived. The eve of the meeting, I woke up before the sun, sat on the edge of the bed and stayed silent for a while, feeling the cold floor under my feet. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was a strange calm, kind of hard, that I had never felt before. I pulled the box from under the bed and put it on top, opened it slowly, started organizing everything again, but this time with a different mindset, separated into piles: college, house, wedding, loan. In each pile, I put the most important paper on top. On the loan, I left the contract with his signature clearly visible, took my old notebook and opened to the page where I had summed it all up. 194,000. Ran my finger over the numbers, not to throw it in his face, but to remind myself of one thing. I wasn't a burden. I was the foundation. Took clear envelopes Robert had given me, put each group of papers in one, wrote on top with a pen: college, house, wedding, loan. When I finished, the box wasn't just memories anymore. It was a lawsuit. Then I went to the closet, looked at my clothes, didn't want anything that looked pitiful, nor anything that looked like I was showing off. Chose dark slacks, a simple blouse, no pattern, and a light blazer. Clothes of someone who respects herself, not someone who begs. In the mirror, I tied my hair back, wanted to see my whole face, the wrinkles, the marks, everything, not to lament. To remember that every line there had a history. Stood looking at myself for a while, then spoke out loud, like I was training. Jason, I didn't come here to ask for a favor. I came to collect what is mine. The phrase came out firm on the second try. I am not a burden. I lifted you up your whole life. Now I will lift myself. I repeated a few phrases, simple, direct. No pretty speeches, just truth. Robert had been clear. Evelyn, you don't need to yell. Whoever has evidence doesn't need theater. So I trained to be silent too. Trained to hear in my head him calling me a hag, and even so, not returning fire, just answering with paper. Before putting everything away, I sat and wrote a note. A small paper, from a notebook, with my firm handwriting. It wasn't for the meeting. It was for later. I didn't know yet how I'd use it, but knew it needed to be ready. Folded it in 4. Put it in the inside pocket of the blazer. On the day of the meeting, I woke up even earlier, made coffee, ate a piece of dry toast, just so I wouldn't leave on an empty stomach. Took the box, hugged it to my chest, and left the room. The house was silent. Tiffany must still be sleeping. The kids, too. I walked down the hall without making a sound. When I got to the living room door, I heard Jason's voice coming from the kitchen. Stopped behind the wall. "I don't know why I have to go to this meeting. My mom loves drama," he said. Tiffany replied with disdain. "Just go, get it over with. She doesn't have the guts to do anything. She'll cry, you say a few nice things. She softens. Always been like that." My heart beat faster. Not fear, confirmation. They counted on my weakness, on my love, on my habit of forgiving everything. This time, it was going to be different. I left without saying anything, closed the gate carefully, took the bus downtown, sat near the window, watching the city pass. Every stop, every corner reminded me of a piece of my life. The neighborhood where I lived with Jason's father, the street where I sold my mother's house, the store where I bought his graduation suit. But I didn't cry, just breathed deep. Arrived half an hour early at the office building. Robert was already there, waiting for me in the lobby. He looked me up and down and nodded. "You look steady," he said. "I'm tired, Robert. Tired of being the floor others walk on." We took the elevator to the conference room floor. Every floor that passed, my chest tightened a little, but my steps didn't retreat. At the door of the room, I stopped, held the box tighter, felt the note in my pocket, touching my body. It was small, but felt heavy. Robert put his hand lightly on my shoulder. "Remember, you aren't asking for anything that isn't yours. You are setting a boundary." I nodded. The receptionist announced that Jason was arriving. I heard the elevator ding in the hallway, his voice laughing about something with Tiffany, her heels clicking on the floor. They approached. When they saw me at the door, the laughter stopped. I turned to face them, straightened my blazer, held the box with both hands, and entered. The room was simple. A large table in the center, 4 chairs on each side, a tall window letting light in. I sat on one side, with the evidence box on the table. Robert stood beside me, quiet, organizing some papers. On the other side, 2 empty chairs. The door opened. Jason entered first, in a dress shirt and expensive watch. Tiffany came behind, phone in hand and a look of boredom. When they saw me, Jason gave a quick smile, the kind of someone who thinks he's in control. "Mom, what is all this? No need to exaggerate like this." I didn't answer, just looked at him. Tiffany pulled out the chair and sat, crossing her legs. Jason sat next to her. Robert introduced himself, firm but polite. "Good morning, Jason." "Good morning, Tiffany. My name is Robert Vance. I am Evelyn's attorney." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Attorney? What for, Mom? Do you really need to go this far?" Tiffany sighed loudly. "I told you she was going to be dramatic." I felt the note in my pocket, but it wasn't time yet. Rested my hands on the lid of the box. "I called you here for a clear conversation. No yelling, no slamming doors, no neighbors listening. Just the truth and the evidence." I opened the box slowly. The sound of the paper moving seemed to echo in the room. Took out the first envelope. "Let's start with college," I said, placing the envelope with the word college in the center of the table. Robert pulled the papers, spread them out. "Here are all the receipts for tuition, fees, materials, transport, from the first semester to the last. All paid by your mother, Jason. In today's value, this is over $80,000. Jason didn't even look at the papers, rolled his eyes. "Mom, that was 30 years ago. Are you throwing that in my face now?" I breathed deep. "I'm not throwing it in your face. I'm reminding you, because it seems you forgot who paid for the start of your life." Picked up the second envelope. "House." Robert opened it. "Down payment on the first apartment. $30,000. Direct transfer from Evelyn's account to yours, Jason. Your signature on the receipt." This time, he looked quickly at the paper, stayed silent for a second, then tried to laugh. "Oh, Mom, that was an informal loan. I helped you later, too." I kept my voice calm. "When?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Tiffany shifted in her skirt, uncomfortable. Third envelope. Wedding. $12,000 in deposits made by Evelyn in the months before the wedding, Robert explained. Plus, receipts for furniture, appliances, all in her name, delivered to your address. Tiffany crossed her arms. She wanted to help. No one forced her. I looked straight at her. "I'm not saying anyone forced me. I'm showing that I was never a burden, never a dead weight, Never lived off anyone. Silence. Picked up the last envelope. Loan. Placed it in the center of the table, calmly. Robert took out the contract, the transfer receipt, the bank statement. Organized them in rows. Here is the loan contract for $50,000 signed by you, Jason, 6 months ago, he said. Term 180 days, 5% interest. Here is the proof of transfer made by Evelyn to your account, and here the current debt calculation, with interest. He turned the paper toward Jason. Total due today, $63,480. Jason pushed the paper with his fingertips. I already said I'll pay when I can. Didn't need all this. You're exposing me to a stranger, Mom. I straightened my spine. You exposed me to the whole street, called me a hag, a burden, an embarrassment, in front of the neighbors, without remembering any of this here. He opened his mouth, but I continued. It's not just money, Jason. It's memory. It's character. Robert breathed deep and entered the part he had saved. There's one more thing, Jason, he said, pulling another paper from his folder. Before filing any action, I usually analyze if the person has the means to pay, and in that process, I found some information. Jason got defensive. What information? Your credit score is trashed, cards maxed out, a bounced check, car loan over 72 months, way above your declared income. Tiffany turned her face to him instantly. What car loan is that? He paled. It's ours, Tiffany. I told you everything was fine. You told me you paid a big chunk in cash, she shot back. Robert continued without giving time. And besides, the money your mother lent you hit your account, and the same day was used to pay off old gambling debts and cards. There was no investment, no company, no partner. Heavy silence. Tiffany leaned back in her chair like she had been slapped. Jason, you used your mother's money to pay for your mess and lied to me? He stammered. Tiffany, I was going to fix it. I just needed time. Time to humiliate her on the doorstep? She cut in. You yelled at the woman who gave you everything and lied to me too? The mask of perfection cracked right there. I just watched. Robert looked back at me, then at them. Evelyn has the right to collect this legally. And with this evidence and witnesses to the public humiliation, your social image could also be quite damaged. Jason raised his voice. Is that a threat? No, Robert replied, calm. It's information. Jason ran his hand through his hair, nervous. Stood up, started pacing the room. Mom, why are you doing this to me? He said finally. I'm your son. Are you going to take me to court? Stain my name? I followed him with my eyes. His voice trembled for the first time. Who stained your name was you, Jason, I said, firm. When you signed that paper with no intention of honoring it. When you took the money and lied. When you called me a hag and told me to disappear. He stopped, looked at me. I was nervous that day. I'm nervous too, but I'm not humiliating you on the street. I'm bringing paper. He sat down again, tired. His face looked smaller, shoulders slumped. Mom, I can't pay you all that now. I know, I replied. That's why I brought a lawyer. He'll explain how you're going to do it. Robert slid another sheet. Here is a settlement proposal. You acknowledge the full debt in writing. We file it. You pay in fixed monthly installments, deducted directly within legal limits. If you miss more than 2, we execute the judgment and garnish wages. Simple. Jason looked at the paper, hands shaking. Tiffany still stared at him, cold. This is absurd, he murmured. Absurd, I said slowly, was using me as a bank and then throwing me out like trash. This here is just consequence. He lowered his head. Tears started to fill his eyes. For a second, I saw the boy crying over a scraped knee, but it passed fast. Tiffany crossed her arms, defending herself. Look, Evelyn, I have nothing to do with this loan. It was between you two. I didn't even know the details. Robert pulled another document. Actually, you do. Some transfers were made on days Jason was at work, from an ATM near your favorite boutique. Camera footage can be subpoenaed if it comes to that. She paled. And besides, he continued, there are the witnesses to the public humiliation. The way you treated Evelyn in the house can also be raised. It's not a crime per se, but it weighs heavily on reputation if this goes public. Tiffany looked at me, irritated but cornered. So what do you want finally? Money? An apology? I breathed deep. It was time to make it clear. I want 3 things, I said. First, that what is mine be paid. Second, that my name never be used as a burden, a shame, or a joke again. Third, that you understand I am no longer someone you can treat however you want. Robert summarized. In the agreement, besides the debt, we include a non-harassment clause. Any attempt at threat or humiliation, we go back to the judge. They looked at each other. It was like, for the first time, they understood I wasn't going to back down. The meeting lasted another hour. Robert read the agreement out loud, line by line. Jason tried to negotiate the amount, tried to lower interest, tried to push the term. Robert was firm but fair, adjusted what he could, without hurting me. In the end, the paper was ready. $63,480 divided into 40 monthly payments. Direct debit. In case of default, automatic judgment. Robert put the contract in front of Jason, with the pen. If you don't sign here, Jason, we file the lawsuit today, he said. With everything I've shown, plus witnesses, it will be much worse. Jason stared at the paper for long seconds. His hand trembled. I said nothing, just watched, not with anger. With a type of exhaustion that has no room for argument. He took the pen, signed. Twice, one for me, one for the notary. When he finished, he pushed the paper to Robert and leaned back, empty. Done. Are you happy now, Mom? I spoke low, but every word came out whole. No, this isn't happiness, Jason. This is just justice. Robert gathered the papers, put them in his briefcase, signed that the legal part was done. But the part that really mattered to me hadn't been said yet. I looked at them both. First my son, then the woman beside him. I wanted you to hear one thing before we leave. They didn't answer, but didn't get up either. All this paperwork here, I pointed to the box, is proof of money. But what hurt me most isn't on any paper. It was when you treated me like dead weight. Like I lived hanging off you. I brushed my hand over my blazer, feeling the note in the pocket. I sold my mother's house to pay for his college, worked nights so he wouldn't go without, gave down payments, paid for weddings, watched grandkids. And in the end, what I heard was, old hag, disappear from my life. Jason lowered his head. Tiffany looked away. Today I understood something. A mother's love isn't accepting humiliation. It isn't plugging holes for adults who choose lies. It isn't staying silent when they turn their backs on you. Love is also knowing when to leave. I took the note from my pocket. It was folded in 4. Put it on the table, face down. This note isn't for now. It's for the day you really get it. One day, you will remember this room, this table, these papers, and you will understand what you lost. I slid the note toward Jason. When that day comes, read it. He didn't have the courage to take it. Robert took it slowly, placed it on top of the documents that would be given to him later. I stood up. I will keep being your mother, Jason. No one takes that away. But from today on, I am not your floor to walk on. I am someone who stood up, and who knows how to walk out the door with her head high. I looked at Tiffany one last time. And you, Tiffany, just remember one thing. The way you treated your husband's mother is the way life usually collects the bill later. Not everything is money. Some things are just respect. And that, you lost with me. I took the box, now lighter than when I arrived. Robert opened the door. When I stepped into the hallway, the air seemed different, cleaner. I breathed deep. I left light. The payments started hitting my account 2 months after signing. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't fast. But it was constant. Every 10th, the bank sent the notification. In the beginning, my hands shook when I saw the statement. It was strange receiving money from my own son that way, by obligation and not will. But with every deposit, I felt something different. Not revenge. It was settling accounts with history. Jason tried to be late on the 3rd payment. The bank didn't confirm the transfer on the date. The next day, Robert called me. Evelyn, remember the deal? Don't call him. Let legal work. In less than a week, the lawyer filed the motion, and a part of Jason's paycheck was garnished. He was furious, sent long texts saying I was exaggerating. It was just a delay, that family resolves this by talking. I read it all and didn't reply, just sent one sentence. Family doesn't humiliate on the sidewalk. After that scare, he wasn't late again. Paid complaining, but paid. Over the months, people started to notice something had changed. Tiffany's sister, who always treated me coldly, ran into me at the store one day and lowered her eyes. Some distant relatives on my husband's side commented to Robert that they had heard the story of the loan, the lawsuit, the scandal on the street. The image of perfect son Jason had built started to crack. His family started demanding a different posture. An uncle called him, asking how he had the nerve to do that to his own mother. A cousin sent me a message saying she was ashamed for him. I didn't spread anything. I didn't go knocking on doors. The truth walked alone, in the mouths of those who saw, in the mouths of those who heard what happened that day. Tiffany felt the weight too. The facade of solid marriage, organized house, perfect life started to crumble. With the garnishment of Jason's wages, their lifestyle took a hit. They had to sell the expensive car and get a used compact. The trip stopped. Social media photos, which used to be restaurants and hotels, became just inside the house. I didn't celebrate, just watched from afar. It was strange seeing their pride undo itself, not because of me, but because of their own choices. A year later, I heard through others that the marriage almost ended. Tiffany discovered more debts, found suspicious texts on his phone with another woman, discovered that all that financial security he showed was smoke. Robert told me, in a neutral tone, that they separated for a few months. I listened in silence. I didn't wish them ill, didn't feel pleasure. Just confirmed something I had already understood. Whoever builds a life on lies and humiliation eventually pays the price. Meanwhile, my life took another path. With the first payments, I made a decision many thought was crazy for a woman my age. I moved out of their orbit completely, found a simple studio apartment in a quiet neighborhood near a park. It wasn't big, wasn't fancy, but it had something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. With the agreement in place and Robert's guidance, I left everything documented. Jason couldn't say I abandoned anything. I just gave him back responsibility for his own house. In the new place, I bought a good bed, a small stove, a used but clean fridge, put a 2-seat table by the window. When I finished setting up, I sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, and breathed. The silence there was different. It wasn't the silence of rejection, like in the back room of his house. It was the silence of a beginning. I started sewing again, but on my terms, no longer tired, killing myself to fund others' dreams. Took few jobs, chosen ones, alterations, hemming, some custom pieces for neighbors. Money wasn't overflowing, but it wasn't missing either. The settlement payments covered rent and bills. The rest came from my hands. I knew exactly where every dollar came from, and for the first time in decades didn't feel guilty spending on myself. I created a small routine, but it was mine. In the morning, I got up early, made coffee, and went for a walk in the park. Greeted the same people, saw the same man walking his dog, the same mom taking her kid to school. Little by little, made friends. A neighbor next door, Mrs. Lucia, started knocking on my door for afternoon coffee. She didn't know my whole story, just knew I had lived with my son and was now on my own. I told her what I wanted, without the sordid details. She respected me without needing to see the receipts. With my grandkids, the story was more delicate. In the beginning, contact cut off almost completely. Jason stayed away out of fear of facing what he did. Tiffany, wounded in her ego, didn't help. A few months later, an unknown number texted me. It was Tiffany's sister's phone with an audio from Tyler. "Grandma, it's Tyler. I miss you." His voice had changed a bit, deeper, more adolescent. I felt my heart tremble, but replied calmly, "I miss you too, honey." With time, we started doing quick video calls, always when Jason wasn't home. I didn't badmouth their father, didn't pour my pain onto the kids, just asked about school, friends, video games. Understood they weren't to blame, and that a grandmother's love didn't need to be thrown in the trash because of adults' mistakes. One day, after much insistence, we agreed to meet at the park. Tiffany's sister brought them. Tyler ran to me and hugged me tight. Emily came behind, shyer, but hugged me too. I held them tight, saying nothing for a few seconds. When I let go, looked them in the eyes. I will always be your grandma, even from another house. I didn't force visits, didn't demand time. Let time create a safe space. Set a clear boundary. I wouldn't go to Jason's house, wouldn't put myself in a position to be humiliated again. Whoever wanted to see me knew where to find me. Jason, about 10 months after the agreement, asked to see me. Robert called me first, asking if I was willing. I thought about it a lot. Accepted, with conditions. Public place, short conversation, no emotional blackmail. He arrived at a park bench, thinner, tired, sat next to me, leaving space. Mom, I read the note. I didn't ask how or when, just waited. I won't ask you to forget. I know what I did, but I wanted, he swallowed hard, wanted you to know that every time the payment goes through, I remember that day on the sidewalk. And I regret it. I looked ahead, kids playing on the swings. Regret without change is just words, Jason. He lowered his head. I'm trying to change. Then change quietly. Pay what you owe. Take care of your kids. And if one day you want to be my son for real, start by respecting me in silence, even when I'm not looking. He cried. Not like a child, but like a man finally seeing the size of the hole he dug. I didn't hug him. I didn't push him away. I stayed there, present, but standing on my own 2 feet. Since then, he tries to text once in a while. I reply when I feel it's healthy. When the tone of manipulation returns, I silence it. Not out of anger, out of self-care. Today, my life is simple. I wake up, walk, work a little, talk to Mrs. Lucia, sometimes see the grandkids. Sometimes, at night, I sit on my bed with my old notebook, the same one I clutched the day of the humiliation. Except now, the last pages have different notes. First month alone, paid rent on time. Third month, bought a new blouse, guilt-free. 6th month, walked 5 laps around the park, no back pain. 1 year, looked in the mirror and liked who I saw. Dignity isn't a luxury. It isn't a prize. It's the foundation. It's the minimum any person deserves. And no one should negotiate that, not for a son's love, nor for fear of being alone. If there's one thing this story taught me, it's that love isn't humiliation. Respect isn't asked for, it's lived. No one is a burden for existing. A burden is the one who chooses to lie on others' backs and still thinks they're doing a favor. Restarting has no age. It can come at 20, 40, 70. What matters isn't how long you spent being the floor for others. It's the exact day you decide to stand up. I started from 0 again, but this time, my way. With clear accounts, a small house, few friends, but with my head high. And that is worth more than any money that has ever passed through my hands. If this story touched you in some way, comment which city you're listening from, and stay with me for the next videos appearing on your screen. Someone might need to hear this today.